With the emergence of social media, we're witnessing new complex ways of mixing linguistic and semiotic resources where different genres, styles, languages coexist in one single text, whether it is a web page, a profile description, or a conversation. I am Alageel, a PhD candidate at the University of Arizona, and this slideshow presents results from a larger online ethnographic study that examines language and identity practices of transnational students on social media. Not only have social media influenced the ways people communicate, but they also provide ample time and opportunity for identity engineering. For minority people, for example, they afford a platform for them to raise their voice and have it heard. Yet they also create a challenge for researchers, as language and interaction can no longer be understood as situated within one context. In social media, there is a context collapse, or in other words, multiple networks, flows, and movements exist simultaneously, a thing that further complicates interaction and lessens the predictability of linguistic forms and patterns. In this study, I look at such a trans context. I look at Saudi transnational students' use of social media. In the last 10 years, hundreds thousands of Saudis have expatriated their country to pursue college or higher education in English speaking countries as part of King Abdullah's scholarship program. These students were immersed in a different and sometimes contradictory cultural and social environment. My interest in this study was led by my observation of Saudi transnational students' language behavior on Instagram. When Instagram was first launched, it became very popular in the Saudi society among various social and age groups. For international and transnational students, like other social media, it offers opportunity for them to stay connected with home on a daily basis and share with people from home their daily life in the USA. They even attract large number of followers that some of them have become very popular, having thousands of followers here and there. As a member of this virtual network myself, I was fascinated by the creativity and complexity of language and identity practices that I noticed. English was used frequently. Also, there were creative and complex instances of code switching, language mixing for different stylistic and pragmatic functions. That led me to questions such as what are the factors that shape language and identity practices here? How the simultaneous presence of audience from different cultural background has influenced language and identity practices in social media. In this study, I investigate how a group of young transnational Saudi students have made use of social media to negotiate transcultural identity through hydroglyphic language and semiotic practices. I argue that being in such transcontextual networks and movements has placed these students under multiple and contradictory norm driving forces, what are called in Bakhtinian terms centripetal and centrifugal forces. For them, being located across borders while still being able to stay connected with home through social media maximizes the clash of ideologies and perspectives that orient their language and identity practices. Before I proceed to the analysis, I will briefly discuss the concepts that inform the understanding of language and identity in this study. For Bakhtin, language is heteroglot from top to bottom, since a language exists only through its use by people across time. It contains within it the contradictions of different individuals, groups, and historical moments. When we speak in many voices. Different voices underlie different attitudes, perspectives, and identities. Heteroglossia is defined by Ivanov as the simultaneous use of different kinds of speech or other signs, the tension between them, and their conflicting relationships within one text. Piley adds that the struggle and conflict between utterances is a result of the socio-historical association they carry with them. In the analysis here, the concept of heteroglossia helps to connect the interactional with the socio-historical and ideological meaning of language and identity practices here. To understand the dynamics of heteroglossic practices here, I employ Bakhtin's notions of centripetal and centrifugal forces. Centripetal forces are those working toward concrete verbal and ideological unification and centralization. On the other hand, centrifugal forces or decentralizing forces are forces that cause stratification and variation in social ways of speaking. In this study, the trans context creates ambivalence because of the overlap and conflict in the kinds of centripetal forces at work. That is, what is normal in one context might be considered aberrant in a different one. The analysis here was informed by a post-structural view of identity. For Buckles and Hall, identity is emergent in discourse and doesn't precede it. Identity is an intersubjectively achieved social and cultural phenomenon. The process of identity construction doesn't reside within the individual, but in intersubjective relations of sameness and difference, realness and fakeness, power and disempowerment. The ongoing analysis reveals contrasting and simultaneous voices in the ways these students present themselves, which were usually oriented both towards traditional norms and values of their native society and at the same time towards more westernized and globalized values. One of the findings shows how the participants performed contrasting cultural personas through multiple modalities. That is, in a way that the contrast between performed identities can be recognized through linguistic and semiotic choices. Here, this is a printed screen of the profile description of Wafa, a participant in this study. Wafa posted a picture of herself right at the top, and then she altered languages in her self description, starting with Arabic for name, English for career and business, and then concluding with Arabic again for her country. Looking at this example, from a Bakhtinian perspective, we can see a contrast between different cultural voices. To start from the picture at the top, we can see that it represents a westernized image of Wafa, as it is socially unacceptable for women in her native culture to share photos of themselves on the internet. Moving to the second utterance, Ismi Wafa, meaning my name is Wafa, the choice of Arabic for the name and right under the photo frames a shift to a voice representing her Arab identity. At the same time, a textual analysis of the phrase my name is indicates that although it was written in Arabic, it was both stylistically and socioculturally alien to the Arabic context. That is because it is almost the phrase is almost a literal translation of the English phrase my name is that is usually used for self-introduction. In Arabic, people usually don't use this protocol of self-introduction when they meet people for the first time, and they tend to do it in a more implicit way. And to verify this, I did a quick search in Instagram for both the Arabic and the English phrases as used in profile descriptions, and the result shows only one user plus this one for the Arabic phrase, while the English was used by hundreds of people to introduce themselves in Instagram. Clearly, what we have here is a double voiced utterance that, although was written in Arabic, it was both stylistically and socioculturally associated with English, as there is a simultaneous existence here of both Arabic words and English communicative style. Again, in the next utterance, we can recognize a voice shift reframed through language alternation, the shift to English. When she says, teacher living in Tucson, it's all about my camera, and I hear email, full-time teacher, part-time photographer. So Wafa here, when she shifted to English, she shifted to a professional persona, an image different from the historical image of women in her native culture. The choice of English to write about her work enhanced the image of the working woman as it objectifies the symbolic values associated with English, that of modernity and westernization. In the last utterance, سعودية وأفتخر, meaning Saudi and proud, there is also a voice shift reframed through language alternation. The choice of Arabic words as a confirming voice in the effective statement about her country. To conclude, Looking at the picture together with the text reveals the conflicting others in the transcultural persona that she performed. Heteroglossic practices were also employed to invoke the voice of the other in building cross-cultural relationships. One strategy frequently used by the participant here was stylization and crossing. This refers to the use of a language, a style, or a genre that belongs to a particular group, event, and situation not normally used by the speaker or in the current speech event. In this post, Jody, a transnational student, posted a photo of Emirati dirhams wrapped in Emirati traditional dress, and then she captioned it with Emirati dialect and several hashtags of Emirati cultural products and neighborhoods. The caption says: هدية من ربيعتي 10 دراهم، مخمور كندورة، أهل الإمارات فديتهم، العين، الهيلي، البحر، المقام، دواوير العين، ضرب العين. In English, it means a holiday gift from my friend, and then unrelated names of different Emirati cultural products, neighborhoods, and streets. So, to analyze this, we can see that the frame shift to another voice can be recognized through the hyperbolic realization of the Emirati dialect, in which here the technological affordances of the hashtag was used to emphasize the humorous performance of the other's dialect. She listed in the hashtags unrelated names of Emirati cultural products, local streets and neighborhoods. Understanding this humorous act and the humorous deployment of the Emirati dialect requires a consideration of the socio-historical ideologies that inform this behavior. Politically, there is a friendship between the two cultural groups. Emirati dialect has a prestigious status and value not only because of the friendship that connects the two countries, but also because it's associated with wealth and richness that characterizes its people. So, the stylization here provokes re-evaluation and call into attention both the real and the metaphorical identities of Judy. And as much as it was strategically used to sustain intimacy and relationship with her friend and to perform an inter-ethnic identity, it is also an inauthentication strategy with complex cultural implications for her identity, a metacognitive strategy that shows her awareness of herself and of the other. The following extract illustrates how multilingual practices were used to claim multiple identities simultaneously in the same utterance. This is a post by one of the transnational women in this study describing a visit to a city during the winter break. The photo is on the right and the caption is on the left here. She writes in the caption: منطقة أتعب وأنا أقول جميلة، مرة مأنتكة وفيها مجموعة أنشطة وأهمها سنوفول. أورلاندو ما ينزل فيها سنو، واخترعوا هذا الشيء الجميل عشان يعيشون جو الشتاء والكريسماس، وبرضو فيها عربات وخيل وسكيتنج، وما ننسى الكافيهات والمطاعم والبيكري. As you might have noticed, although she wrote the caption in Arabic, we can notice the existence of a number of English words written in Arabic orthography, with different degrees of adaptation to Arabic grammatical system. These linguistic forms are hybrid, as they have features from both languages. This form can be considered as a kind of bivalency, what Waller defines as words or other linguistic elements that belong to more than one language, such as cognates or loanwords, or forms traditionally discussed as interference elements from various lexical, morphological, phonetic, or syntactic systems. Using Bakhtin's notion of double voice, we can see that this linguistic practice is multifunctional. On the one hand, drawing on elements from different languages simultaneously, the speaker claims multiple identity positions as English and Arabic speaker. In addition, considering the sociocultural ideologies and the place of English in the Arab world, we can understand the symbolic value of the English words used in this context. English is associated with modernity. Its use in social media discourse is often associated with coolness and play, a thing that adds a sense of humorous telling to the post here. In this study, I examined the way Saudi transnational students used social media to present themselves to local and global audiences. I argue that being located at transcontextual networks and flows increased the material coexistence of norms and ideologies that shape their own practices. The examples illustrate the heteroglossic voices created through multiple modalities through which the participants constructed for themselves conflicting and simultaneous personas. Among the heteroglossic strategies employed by the transnational student to invoke the voice of the other and appropriate it to their own purposes were stylization, language alternation, and bivalency. The use of English and cross-regional dialects invokes the symbolic power they represent. These strategies, along with direct differential meaning, have empowered the participant to create transcultural identity that fluctuates between different localities and social groups. Thank you for listening to this slideshow. If you like this presentation, a click on the heart shape means a lot to me. If you have any questions or comments, please add them to the discussion forum. I am looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you for listening to this slideshow. If you like this presentation, a click on the heart shape means a lot to me. If you have any questions or comments, please add them to the discussion forum. I am looking forward to hearing from you.